To our Japanese alumni, Kakehashi alumni, minasama ohayou gozaimasu. And to our Canadian alumni, good evening and bonsoir à toutes et à tous. My name is Christine Nakamura, Vice President of the Asia Pacific Foundation of Canada in Toronto, the implementing agency of the Japan-Canada Kakehashi Project for the Government of Japan's Ministry of Foreign Affairs. I'm delighted to welcome all of you tonight and to be your MC for this exciting event. I'd like to begin by acknowledging that while we are all meeting in a global digital space, the places Canadians call home are the traditional territories of many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples. Tonight, we are hosting from Toronto on the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples. The land acknowledgement for our Japanese friends, which I just made, is a formal statement that recognizes and respects Indigenous peoples as traditional stewards of Canada's lands and waters. Tonight, we are very fortunate to be able to host this 90-minute virtual event entitled United by Emotion, Kakehashi Olympians, Bridging Culture Through Sports, featuring some of Canada's most talented Olympians who also happen to be former Kakehashi alumni from our 2017-18 cohort. What is amazing, or perhaps not so amazing, is that they are all women who made all Canadians so very proud of their participation on Team Canada and of their incredible achievements at the Tokyo 2020 Olympic Games this past summer. But before we begin, we have a special video message from His Excellency Yasuhisa Kawamura, Japan's ambassador to Canada. He sends his sincere regrets that he is unable to participate tonight in person due to a scheduling conflict, but he was very much looking forward to this highlight event. So let's see his special message to you.
Good evening and bonsoir to participants from Canada, and good morning and ohayou gozaimasu to participants from Japan. Thank you for the invitation to join you for this alumni event, gathering to meet our alumni Olympians in Tokyo 2020. Unfortunately, I couldn't be here with you today, but I'm glad to have the opportunity to greet you all through this video. Firstly, I would like to thank Christian Nakamura-san and the APFC for the great work to manage the Kakehashi Project and for making today's event possible. I would also like to take a moment to congratulate the Kakehashi alumni who participated in the Tokyo 2020 Olympic Games this summer. Miss Laurence, Vincent de Lapointe in canoe kayak, Miss Eleanor Harvey in fencing, Miss Guglia in skateboarding, as well as Miss Jacqueline Simoneau and Miss Claudia Holzner in artistic swimming. I am proud of our Kakehashi Olympians who braved the obstacles and joined the Tokyo 2020 Olympics. In spite of the great challenges caused by the COVID-19 pandemic, Japan successfully hosted the Tokyo 2020 Olympic and Paralympic Games. This wouldn't have been possible without the support and effort of Canadian partners and athletes. We were always encouraged and inspired by the efforts of athletes who never gave up and strived to deliver outstanding performances even in the face of complicated circumstances. I would also like to reiterate how proud I am of all athletes who participated in the Games, including the Kakehashi Olympians who competed at the Games. The motto of the Tokyo Olympic Games was United by Emotion. This is also today's event's theme. This idea is now more important and truer than ever before. Many obstacles had to be overcome before the Tokyo 2020 Games, but we overcame such difficulties all together. This summer, we could witness United by Emotion all over the world through the performances of athletes at the Olympics and Paralympics, including the ones delivered by the 5 Kakehashi alumni at the Games. These achievements prove once again the power of sports and our superb Kakehashi alumni who are everywhere and distinguish themselves in a great number of fields. We also gather today with a spirit of united by emotion as Kakehashi alumni and friends. As many of you know, Kakehashi means building bridges. The many accomplishments and contributions of Kakehashis are key to building and keeping the bridges strong between our two countries. I look forward to seeing how Kakehashis will continue to contribute to the Japan-Canada relations through sport and all other fields where they shine. I hope that today's event and discussions will be another chance to be connected among the Kakehashi alumni and friends between Japan and Canada. I wish you all a great evening and morning. Thank you. Merci. Arigato.
So tonight, we are very fortunate to be able to host this event entitled United by Emotion, Kakehashi Olympians, Bridging Culture Through Sports, featuring some of Canada's most talented Olympians. What female athletes I mentioned earlier that there were more female athletes than male athletes at this particular Olympics. And Canada was one of the 5 nations that sent more female athletes than male to the Olympic Games, the others being the United States, Great Britain, China, and Australia. Of 371 total athletes from Canada, 226 were women and 146 were men. So it is no surprise that 18 of Canada's 24 total medals earned were won by women athletes, and they also broke a number of records as well. As a strong advocate of women's equality, I am thrilled and proud of the accomplishments of our women athletes, and tonight we'll be able to showcase a few of Canada's dream team. And now it gives me great pleasure to introduce to you Ms. Janelle Sasaki, who has generously offered her time out of her busy schedule to moderate the panel discussion with our Olympians. Janelle is based in Tokyo with Ernst & Young and leads in brand marketing and communications. I was fortunate for an introduction to Janelle through a women's network, as she is also a leader with extensive experience on matters concerning gender inclusivity. She was appointed as the global leader of Ernst & Young's Women Athletes Business Network in 2020 to drive the firm's global and local initiatives for women entrepreneurs and athletes. We're very fortunate to have Janelle tonight to, first of all, share some of her personal experiences with us, and then to introduce the panelists and lead the discussion. So with no further ado, Janelle, over to you.
Thank you very much, Christine, for that kind introduction and inviting me today. I'm so honored to moderate this panel on a topic that is a passion and work in life. I made a commitment to women's sports and leadership at a very early stage in my career. I've leveraged my experiences as a former competitive gymnast and applied them to my current profession. And, I worked in Silicon Valley for about 10 years, and I really built upon my previous Silicon Valley experiences at Cisco Systems, where I used to work, as I started the collegiate athlete recruiting program, the first one in Silicon Valley. And then I transferred over to Japan and took a diversity and inclusion role. And it really helped prepare me for this current role at EY for leading the strategy and initiatives of the EY Women Athletes Business Network. This is a 10-month program. It's part of the EY Women Athletes Women Fast Forward platform to speed up gender equality in the workplace and society. We want to and aim to unlock the ambition of women athletes and their leadership potential outside of their sports and help them with the transition to business and entrepreneurship. And the Global Mentoring Program includes being paired with female EY leaders, skill building opportunities, networking with athletes, business leaders, and entrepreneurs as well. And we actually have a participant today who is a mentee in our program, Darcy Hortness, who's an Olympic medalist rowing Canada, and now she's an entrepreneur. You know, I'm often asked, why is EY supporting female athletes? And we actually conducted some research in collaboration with ESPNW and found that female athletes make great leaders. Our 2015 study of 400 female C-suite executives, we found an undeniable correlation between athlete and business success. And one of the key findings showed us that a whopping 94% of female business executives have a background in competitive sports, and more than 52% played at the university level. So this research validated our hypothesis and our gut feeling around this. And these insights are one of the main reasons why the EY Women Athletes Business Network was created. And we call it WABN for short. You know, it's very clear, sports equips women to get to the highest level of business and leadership. And the findings show very clearly, if you want to get more women in leadership, focus on women athletes. And here they are today. It's my pleasure. So let's meet the athletes. We have such an all-star lineup of role models, and we're going to hear from 5 Olympians who are part of this Kakehashi program. So it's my pleasure to first introduce Annie Guglia. So we'd like all of the panelists to introduce yourselves, your backgrounds, and your journeys as an Olympian, and how your experience visiting Japan in the Kakehashi program impacted your Tokyo 2020 experience. Over to you, Annie.
Can you hear me? I just want to make sure. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, perfect. Okay. So hi, everybody. My name is Annie Guglia. I'm a professional skateboarder and Olympian from Montreal, Canada. So I'll talk a little bit about myself and a little bit about my experience of the Kakehashi Project and at the Tokyo Olympics. So I started skateboarding about 20 years ago, and I really wanted to do competition, but at the time there wasn't that many opportunities for women. So I stayed in school, studied in business strategy, and until 2016, when it was announced that skateboarding would be included as a new sport in the Tokyo 2020 Olympics. So I got around with a bunch of Canadian skateboarders, and we created the national federation that we have right now, Canada Skateboard, which I still sit on the board as the athletes representative. And in 2018, we had our first national championship, and I didn't think I would take the athlete path, but I won the first national championship to take that path and went 100% into this new, made it all the way to Tokyo in 2020. Now, I don't know if you heard the story, but it was, so I didn't qualify at our very last World Championship. I just didn't perform as well as I wanted, and I got bumped out of the top 20, which got me out of the Tokyo 2020 Olympics. And 4 days before the competition, somebody got hurt in competition, so they called me from Canada. I flew with the 30 So that's my journey. As project, since my Tokyo 2020 experience was so short, I could not have the opportunity to visit and see Tokyo and experience before the Olympics. So my favorite parts were I still practice meditation to this day. That's something that I kept with me throughout my whole Olympic journey. The home, the fact that it was my first Olympic experience, because skateboarding was recently added to the Olympics. So just meeting other Canadian athletes, Japanese athletes, and having all the lectures, that was all new to me. So it was very, and still to this day, one of my favorite trips ever. So thank you so much. And I knew there was another question about like what we think, what causes we. And for me, something that's very dear to me is supporting women in sports and diversity in skateboarding. So since different women's skate groups, I created monthly girls skate meetups, and I really am in getting more and more diversity in skateboarding. So that's it for me. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Annie, for sharing that amazing background. And I'd like to ask Eleanor Harvey to also share your background and journey as an Olympian.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm Eleanor Harvey. I'm a fencer. So in fencing, there are 3 different types: foil, saber, and épée, and I fence foil. I've been fencing since I was 10 years old, so for 16 years. And basically ever since I can remember, I wanted to go to the Olympics. I didn't care what sport it was. I didn't care how I was going to get there, how long it was going to take, but I was just obsessed with going to the Olympics because I didn't have cable growing up. And the only time that my mom got cable was during the Olympics. So it's all I saw on TV. So I was like, one day I'm going to be there. So initially I wanted to go for running. Then I tried karate. I really liked karate. And I thought maybe this is the sport that can take me to the Olympics. But at the time there was no karate in the Olympics. So I had to look for another sport. And my mom's boyfriend suggested fencing because we would like stick fight. And so he thought I should give it a try. And as soon as I tried it, my first day, I ended up beating someone that had been fencing for about a year. So I was like, well, this is the one. And I haven't looked back ever since. Fencing has taken me a lot of different places. I ended up going to the Ohio State University to represent the school and fence the NCAA circuit. And I won the NCAA championships in 2016, which was also the year I qualified for my first Olympics. So I competed in Rio in 2016, and that was an amazing tournament for me. I got the all-time best result for Canadian fencing history in individual, which was 7th. Canada is not like a super strong fencing country in its history, but it's starting to get a lot better. So after the last Olympics, I qualified as an individual, and I knew that in 2020, I had a chance to qualify with a team. And so for the next 4 years, my team and I trained and we qualified. And so going to Tokyo with my team was definitely one of the highlights of my career and of my life. I got to fence the team event and the individual event. And in team, we again made like a best ever Canadian result, which was 5th. And that was super exciting to do with my team. We've been on the national team together for like over 10 years, a lot of us. So to go there and compete together was amazing. We were all planning on retiring after, but looks like we're all going to keep going because we had such a positive experience. And yeah, so I'm still training full time. I recently moved to Calgary where I'm coaching, training full time, and getting ready next month for the season to start. So I'm really looking forward to going to France next month, and then after that, kind of just competing for the next couple months. Yeah, my experience with the Kakehashi Project was so amazing. I was still at the Ohio State when I went on that trip. So I told all my professors, like, please let me have this week off. I have this amazing opportunity. And I told them about it, and they were like, just go do that. So that was super fun. I think one of the highlights of the trip was the homestay program that we did, where we got to go into like a small town that produced a lot of tea, and we got to just live for like 2 days with a family. Like, they didn't speak English, we didn't speak Japanese, but we still ended up having an amazing time. And yeah, learning a lot about the history of Japan and some politics was super interesting. It was just a very like comprehensive trip, and met some really cool people. So thank you so much for that opportunity. And yeah, it's really good to be here.
Thank you, Eleanor, for sharing your experiences. And we look forward to rooting you on in Paris 2024.
Hope so.
So I'd like to invite Claudia Holzner to share your background and experiences.
Hi, everyone. I hope you're all doing well. So I've been competing in artistic swimming for over 19 years, 13 of those being on the international scene, competing when I was younger in 13 to 15, all the way up to senior level. And I've been with the senior national team for over 9 years. I've represented Canada at 4 World Championships and 2 Pan Am Games, where Jackie and I qualified for the 2020 Olympics this summer. And in 2018, like everybody on this call, I had the incredible opportunity to travel to Japan and kind of explore the cities a little bit more. We definitely don't have a lot of time to, travel and visit when we're competing, and we're generally in the pool most of the day. So it was a really nice experience to be able to explore the city, visit the sites, see the Olympic Village being built, the Olympic Stadium being built. And as Eleanor mentioned, my favorite part of the program is also the homestay program, which is pictured here. Jackie and I were able to stay in the same homestay together, and we stayed again with a family on a tea farm, and it was just such an incredible experience to kind of live a day or two in their lives and just kind of experience what life is like in Japan. Going on to my Olympic experience, my journey to the Games was an up and down battle. I narrowly missed the Olympics in 2016, where Jackie had the opportunity to go to the Olympics, and I just missed it with the team. But that kind of fueled the fire to continue to 2020 in Tokyo. And then, of course, there was a global pandemic in the midst of all of that. So it's been an uphill battle the last 9 years on the national team, but the Olympic experience was incredible. Obviously, I don't have any other Olympic experience, but for me, it was a dream come true. I had the best performances of my life, best scores of my life, and peaked right at the most opportune moment, which is every athlete's dream. And I just got to live the experience, although we couldn't have spectators, and it was definitely a different Olympics than those of the past and those of the future. It was one of the best experiences of my life, and I'm so fortunate to be able to have experienced it. So yeah, that is me. I'm excited to be here.
Thank you, Claudia. What comes to mind is resilience and, overcoming setbacks to reach your dream. So thanks for sharing that. I'd like to introduce two-time Olympian, Jacqueline Simoneau, to share her background and experiences.
Thank you very much, Chanel. Ohayo gozaimasu to everybody in Japan, and good evening to everybody in America and Canada. Thank you very much for having us on the call today. And as mentioned, I am a two-time Olympian. I had the opportunity to compete at the Rio 2016 Olympic Games and the Tokyo 2020-21 Olympic Games. My journey towards the Olympic Games started off as a child, five years old, watching the Olympic Games on TV and seeing that the best athletes in the entire world were gathered in one space and shared the common goal of being the best that they could possibly be in their respective sports. And so at that young age, I knew that I wanted to attain that level. Much like Eleanor, though, did not know what sport. I was ready to go on for any sport and tried various sports growing up, such as hockey, soccer, and baseball, but truly fell in love with water sports at the age of 9 years old when I discovered synchronized swimming, which is now called artistic swimming. And since then, I've had the amazing opportunity to compete at many international competitions, including some at the Japan Open. And the Japan Open has always been one of my favorite competitions. However, one thing that when we compete, we don't have the opportunity to really visit and soak up the different cultures and the countries that we're in. So the Kakehashi Project in 2018 that I had the privilege to take part of enabled me to really soak up the Japanese culture and take part in a homestay program, which is truly one of my favorite memories of staying in a Japanese family in a tea farm in Kyoto. And I'm even sipping a little bit of jasmine tea this evening. It is commemorative to that wonderful time there. But I could say that nothing can beat fresh Japanese tea. So that was one of my favorite experiences of all time, which made going to the Tokyo Olympic Games that much more special, knowing that I had the opportunity to meet the people, the Japanese people, soak up the culture and feel the support. Even though there wasn't many people in the stands apart from media, we felt the support from all the Japanese people, whether it be in a bus on the way to our Olympic venue or back to the village. People were always waving and saying hi. And that's just a tribute to say how wonderful the Japanese culture and people are. They're always so kind and friendly and supportive. And I felt truly privileged to be able to live that in 2018 with the Kakehashi Project. So that's a little bit about my sporting background and some of my favorite parts of the Kakehashi Project. I'm looking forward to sharing a little bit more on this call this evening and this morning.
Thank you, Jacqueline, for sharing your experiences in Japan and also in the Olympics as well. And it sounds like you received a lot of omotenashi, the hospitality of the Japanese people and culture. So next, I'd like to invite Laurence, Vincent, Lapointe. She is an Olympic medalist from Tokyo 2020. Laurence?
Hi, hello, ohayo gozaimasu. Thank you for having me today. I'm just really happy to be part of this event because for me, it's been quite the journey, both to get to the Olympic Games, but also to realize my dream, you know? So as a younger athlete, sadly, my sport was not allowed for women's in the Olympics. It was not even it was not even allowed for world championships or world cups. So it was really difficult for me as a younger athlete to just, do what I loved without any opportunities. And this is something that has always made me sad because for women's, often opportunities are not as good as for men's. So throughout my career, I had to fight and just, confront the naysayers, everyone who said that women should not be canoeing. I tried to prove them that they were wrong and that women had their place. And well, it took so many years for us to be included in the Olympic programs. I started my international career in 2010 for the first World Cups. And it took all the way until 2017 when we first got the official inclusion during the games. So I was really excited. I was relieved to know that I might finally have my chance, to realize this dream of mine. And well, many things happened and it was really difficult. And then COVID happened in 2020. And at first I thought my dream was, broken, because it was literally writing history to have a new female inclusion in the Olympic Games. And I assume it's the same for Annie, because it was also the first time for her sport. But yeah, so for me, it was writing history, but then suddenly, because of the pandemic, we were all not allowed to go anymore. So a big relief to know that it was going to still happen, but a year later. And it just gave me more time to get ready and to, feel as ready as I could ever be to get all the way to the Olympic Games. And it was not easy. Selections were difficult. It was quite last minute that I was selected, but still I did my best. And I went in the Olympic Games. I went in Japan in the best shape of my life, feeling as if I was as ready as I could ever be. So I went there, and it was very weird, because I was both incredibly surprised and also relieved by the Olympic Games, because I was always told, it was my first time, right? So I was always told that the Olympic Games were bigger and more intense than everything I could imagine. And then I got there, and as beautiful as it was calm. And I loved that. In my mind, I was ready to get bothered by people yelling every night, because some people finish and some people celebrate and everything. So I was ready to not sleep well. And then I get there, and it's super calm, because everyone has to leave as soon as it's finished. And it was sad, but at the same time, it was kind of a well-known situation where we don't have much, usually in competitions, we don't have much to bother us during racing. Anyway, but the thing that really made me so calm and happy and feeling so good during the competition was the welcoming nature of everyone there, of the Japanese people, and everything was just so great. Everyone was welcoming and nice and helpful, and everything was on time, and there was nothing that could have made it better for me. It was just simply perfect, and I was so ready for not the things to not be perfect, because such a big competition usually has troubles. But this one was just perfect. And I was just, for me, it's because it was in Japan. Because, when we went with the Kakehashi Project, we were able to see the culture. We were able to see lovely people and the homestay. I know everyone has talked about it, but I met such great people. You can see on the photo, here's my Okasan from the homestay. And I just met such good people there that I knew it was going to be good, but the Olympic Games just surpassed all of this. And for me, it was just the opportunity to do my best and write history as I always wanted, in the best situation possible.
Well, congratulations, Laurence, for such an amazing accomplishment in a very historic and calm Olympics.
Yeah, well, I couldn't ask for anything else. It was perfect.
Well, we're so proud of you, and we're proud of all of you, all of the Canadian Olympians who did such an amazing job. And I want to just, follow up on some questions based on your experiences. And I first want to ask Annie, So Annie?
Yes.
Yeah, wonderful. So I think you can all share your cameras now. You stepped back from competitive skateboarding for some time, partly because you felt that there was limited, opportunities for women as professionals in the sport. So do you feel that has changed? And what role do you see yourself in that change?
Well, yes, it changed massively since I started skateboarding in 2001. For a lot of reasons, I think social media really helps. So I think social media, but also definitely the Olympics. In the past 4 years, we've seen women skateboarders on TV and ads, in social media, in traditional medias, and now at the Olympics. And I've personally got, and I'm sure a lot of women skateboarders who paved the way have received, from just parents and younger girls who just feel inspired because now they have access to seeing people who look like them succeed, because that's something that I didn't have. We had a couple women who skateboarded at the time, but for example, if you won a World Cup, you won about $1,000, which I didn't know what I wanted to do when I was 16, but I knew I wanted to make more than $1,000 a year. So school and did something else. And it's kind of sad when I look back at it, but I think it was a good decision because it brought me to where I am today. But yes, definitely it has changed skateboarding, and I'm sure a lot of other sports are now seeing a growth because of visibility, because it's hard to be what you can't see.
Yeah, it was such a cool sport. And you learned quite suddenly that you would be joining Team Canada at Tokyo 2020. So can you tell us how you felt when you got the news that you're going to be competing in the Olympics?
Oh, I missed the beginning of the question because of my internet. I'm sorry.
So you heard quite suddenly that you're going to be joining Team Canada at Tokyo 2020. So can you tell us how you felt when you got the news?
Yes, so it was 4:30 a.m. I was sleeping, and on a Thursday, and the competition was on the next Monday, and I had already made up my mind that I was going to skate in the Olympics. And for a month and a half, I was really sad. My high performance director called me at 4 a.m. and he's like, "Can you go get tested before 7 a.m. this morning? Because if you can, you might be alternate for the Olympics, not skateboard in the Olympics, but come to the Olympic Village in case." And yes, I was like, yes, I'll do anything, but I'll get tested before 7. And so I did that, and I got tested, and I got there Saturday night, and Saturday night around midnight, they told me that I was gonna skate in the Olympics on Monday morning at 8 a.m. So I had about 36 hours of notice and 40 minutes of practice, and I was writing. I didn't even have time to be stressed, but on the other hand, it wasn't the best performance of my life, but I'm just happy that I was there, made history with all my friends, represented skateboarding at the games, just was able to 110, 200% of what I could do, because I don't know how the other athletes were feeling the next day they got to Tokyo, but with the 13-hour jet lag and 17-hour flight, skateboarding in the Olympics the next morning is not the best time of your life. But I feel like I did the best I could, and it was an amazing opportunity.
Well, congratulations. You're a great ambassador for the sport. Laurence, you started off doing artistic swimming, formerly synchronized swimming, at the age of 8, and you switched to canoe at the age of 12. How did you see yourself developing with that sport? And did you know from such a young age that you would compete at the level that you are now?
The funny thing is, I started synchronized swimming because I saw it at the Olympic Games, and I got inspired, and I was like, oh, I want to do this. But then when I started canoeing, I didn't start it because of opportunities. I started it to be with my friends, and that's it, because there were no opportunities. So when I started paddling, I was actually really bad. I'm quite tall. I'm almost 6 foot tall, so 181 centimeter. So for balance, it's very difficult. And I would end up in the water every single day for like most of the practice. I would fall in the water. So people were not telling me I had potential. They were telling me to switch sports. but I was really, I liked it, and I had fun with my friends. So I decided to keep going, even though it was difficult, and even though I had, like I said, not much potential at the time. I just kept going until it worked, and there we are. I guess I just stuck until the end.
Well, we're glad that you stuck until the end, because, you took home 2 Olympic medals. And again, congratulations, a silver and a bronze. And I understand that you brought them to show us.
Yeah, I actually have them here. So yeah, these are my...
Let's see. Oh, they're beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah, sometimes I don't sometimes I feel as if it's a dream that I didn't actually go to the games, and whenever it happens, because it feels like it's a dream, I look at them and I'm like, yeah, actually I did go. Thank goodness. It's not all just a dream.
Well, how did that achievement feel? I mean, take us through, like, especially when you got that silver medal, what was kind of going through your mind at the time?
Well, for me, the craziest emotional wave happened when I was on the podium for the silver medal. And I get on the podium, and usually I'm actually 13 times world champion. So I'm used to be on the first step, right? And I'm used to hear the Canadian national anthem. And then I get on the podium and I hear the American national anthem. And although I was really proud, when I hear that, I get this like small sadness, like just like this small like but then as soon as it happens, I realize all I went through in the last 2 years, because the pandemic is something, but I went through a lot of things during the last 2 years. And it was at that moment, I actually realized that I was so much more proud of what I had accomplished. And being second was not bad, was not sad, was actually like the best. And I just started crying and laughing at the same time, because I was relieved that I had accomplished those 2 years. It was done. And I had this medal around my neck to prove it, and to just, I had done what I had to do. And yeah, that's what happened. I just started crying and laughing.
Well, I think it fits the theme of the Olympics, united by emotion, right? So I'm going to ask Claudia. Claudia, you work with an organization that helps female athletes and achieve their dream of representing, Canada at an international level, such as the Olympics. From your personal perspective and experience, why is this important to you and also your country?
Yeah, thank you for mentioning that. So I work with an organization called Can Fund, and it helps, fund majority of the athletes that compete at the Olympics, all the way from 2000 until present. And for me, I started working with them during the pandemic as a way of kind of getting involved with sport, gaining experience, and it changed my life. It sounds so cliche, but being able to work with a foundation that is so caring, and they just really want the athletes to succeed, and they want the athletes to be able to do everything that they want to do without the financial stress of having to find a way to pay rent and, have an extra job and, worry about groceries and where they're coming from. Like it's, you don't really think about Canadian athletes not having funding. And the reality is a lot of the athletes don't have carding, which is our government support. And a lot of the winter athletes, pay upwards of $27,000 just for their national team fees. And so to be able to kind of be in a place where it's a primarily female, governed group, like we're primarily women, and we get to support female athletes and we get to support male athletes as well. But it's an incredible experience to be able to surprise an athlete with $6,000. So I'm very, very fortunate.
Wow. So you are empowering them from an economic perspective to reach their potential. What about your leadership potential? What's kind of next for you?
Ooh, that's a great question. I am doing a lot of things right now. I still work with Can Fund, and I'm working with them quite closely right now, and would love to continue that towards the future. Obviously, I'm going to school as well in marketing, and I'm trying to connect my two worlds together so that I can, do everything to the best of my abilities at Can Fund. And I would love to kind of take a step, towards coaching in the future. And I also teach yoga classes as well. So I'd love to empower women and let them do what they need to do and let them feel healthy and be happy. So, yeah.
Great. Eleanor, Tokyo 2020 was your second Olympic experience. Can you tell us about the experience this time and how did it compare to Rio in 2016?
Yeah, it was super different. Rio was special because, as I mentioned before, my dream for my whole life was to qualify for the Olympics and be there. So I got to do that, but I got to do it alone. I was just in the village by myself. There were some other fencers, but not my team. Because I mentioned the different weapons, no one in my weapon was there. So I was just going through this whole thing, but I was oh, there's no one here to go through this with. I think it was none of us were gonna stop until we qualified together. So going and competing in Japan together was amazing. It was unfortunate that all of our families couldn't be there and all that, especially for some of my teammates that have, this is maybe their third quad trying to qualify and they finally made it. And so their families would have loved to be there, but they were very supportive from afar. And yeah, the team competition is really interesting because in individual, when you lose, you're out. You're done, you go home. If you lose in team, you still have to keep fencing. So we lost our first bout against France, who ended up winning the silver. And so we had to fence against Hungary, who had just previously lost their bout too. So it's really hard to motivate yourself after a loss. But we had an hour break and we just started hanging out with each other and kind of forgetting that we were about to fence. And by the end, we were in a great mood because we love each other and we just wanted to go compete together and see what we could do. And when I was watching my teammates, it's one of the most proud moments of my life. I was I've been training with them for my whole, the last 10 years, and to watch them perform at the highest level and watch the hours that they put in and see even just one action. I watched them practice it 1,000 times throughout the last couple of years. And then they do it, against like a Hungarian or whoever it was. Like, I was like, yes, that's what it's all for. So yeah, that was amazing. We were able to like rally ourselves together. We beat Hungary, and then we had to fence Japan, and we beat Japan, sorry.
That's
Japan's a really strong team, so we were pretty pumped. They usually beat us.
It's a competitive sport, so
yeah.
Great.
So yeah, it was way more fun this time. Yeah.
Interesting experience. You know, obviously the pandemic impacted, you know, all athletes. And for Claudia and Eleanor, you know, during the pandemic, you both started new ventures, not specifically related to your chosen sport. So can you explain what activities you took up and, you know, what inspired you to do that?
Should I go? I'll go. Okay.
Sure.
I did a couple things. I actually also worked at CanFun for a couple months with Claudia.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I did that for a little bit, which was pretty cool. And then I had to start traveling again. So it was just like a little bit too much for me to handle. So took a couple months traveling and started coming to Calgary a lot to train. And that's kind of why I decided to move here, because I started working with a new coach here. The whole like kind of national team is moving here. And yeah, so that was cool. But then, yeah, I also started like my own like small clothing line called Lenny Garb, which is, I started it because I just, in all my free time, I'm always drawing. And so my mom has like a promotional products business. So we thought, why don't we work together? She can get like some clothes and I can make the designs and then I can sell it. So yeah, that's what I started doing. And yeah, it's pretty cool. It's pretty fun. Like I can just do it basically on my own schedule. So if I have like a really busy month of training or whatever, I'm like, okay, forget about that for now. Then when I have some time, I'm like, okay, let's make some new designs, get them printed or embroidered on some shirts and see if people want to buy them. And so, yeah, it's super like a chill thing because there's no like pressure really to do it if I don't want it. So yeah, that's been kind of exciting.
Well, you're such a role model, athlete, entrepreneur.
Thank you.
That's great. Claudia?
Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, I did my yoga teacher training during the pandemic. So I did 200 hours in the original lockdown, in the first lockdown. And then I also completed the 500 hours. So I'm fully certified 500-hour yoga instructor. And I teach online. I teach to clubs weekly. And then I also offer some private classes, and I will be offering drop-in classes as well in the new year once I have a little bit of a clearer schedule. As this semester I took like a full load of school, but yeah, it was really amazing. And I started it because I was so stressed. It was like right around the time that we had just gone into lockdown. We didn't know if the Olympics were going to happen, and then Canada announced that they would not bring athletes to the Olympics. And that's kind of when I started thinking, okay, well, I need to do something that's going to keep me busy, keep my brain busy, and make sure that I'm, happy, first of all, in my head, and healthy everywhere else as well. And so I really enjoyed it. And now I love teaching it as well.
Wonderful. Well, congratulations on that venture. And, anything that helps mental health and wellness, is so important. To your health.
That I really learned during the pandemic was that, taking care of your mental health is so, so important, and it takes you way further than you could have ever imagined. Yeah.
And it was also dubbed the Mental Health Olympics, actually, in Tokyo 2020. So you're doing great things. Jacqueline, just speaking on the pandemic, how did the pandemic influence your life and career as a high-level athlete?
So definitely, I think as many others around the world, the pandemic changed everybody's day-to-day schedule quite a bit. And so from an athlete's perspective, training at an Olympic-sized pool every single day, training 8 to 10 hours, 6 days a week, to then being confiscated at home and being stuck without your Olympic-sized training pool, it definitely hindered our performance leading up to the Olympic Games. And as Claudia already mentioned, it was definitely difficult on the mental health standpoint. And so we are very fortunate to have a great team around us supporting us throughout the pandemic. At the same time, it brought me a new level of appreciation for the things that were around me, spending time with my family, getting time to meditate, things that I learned. And back in 2018, finding a new purpose, your ikigai, as they would say in Japanese. And so these are all things that I tried to implement in my everyday life leading up to this unorthodox preparation to the Tokyo Olympic Games. I am sorry, my Wi-Fi might not be the best, so I hope my response didn't cut out too much.
Yeah.
Okay. Brilliant.
Yeah. Speaking of purpose, I mean, you've done a lot of work to promote the empowerment of teenage girls through athletic engagement. Tell us about that. What inspired you to do that?
Yes. So after my first Olympic Games in Rio, I decided to be involved with this organization called Fast and Female. And so this organization's purpose is to encourage girls and teenagers to stay in sport, because after numerous studies that have been done, it has been shown that females tend to drop out of sport, whether even just be at a school level, much sooner than males. And as you could attest probably yourself, Janelle, is that you learn so many life skills through sport. And as you mentioned in the beginning of this call, many women who reach the C-suite level actually have a sporting background. And so what we like to do with Fast and Female is encourage females to stay in sport in some sort of capacity so that they could get these life skills and be able to transfer them later on and achieve their goals, whether that be in sport, in business, in life, and really get into these leadership positions if they'd like to be.
Amazing. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that inspiring project that you're taking on. And, I had one final question for all of our athletes to share with the audience. Maybe one final piece of advice that you can, offer, and maybe about resilience, because I was hearing kind of that theme of resilience, having these challenges and setbacks and overcoming it as well, especially during the coronavirus situation. So how can both non-athletes and athletes stay resilient when faced with setbacks? Can you maybe share? And I'll start with Annie.
Sure. Well, if I can dig from my Olympic experience, and the first thing that comes to mind is it's never over until it's over. So always be prepared to take on opportunities. Just happen, because there's nothing more sad than like the moment of your life that's ready for you and you're not ready for it. So I would say, like, whatever it is that you're pursuing, and for example, for me, it was the Olympics. So just a very small parenthesis, but like, so I didn't qualify. And for a month and a half, I kept skating. I kept like my board that I had for the Olympics and my shoes that I had for the Olympics. Like, I don't know why, but I just had that like idea, like, I don't want to use it. I want to make sure. I didn't even think consciously that, like, if it happens, I'll go to Tokyo and I'll have to use them. But in my form, I had everything ready. So when they called me and they said, can you take a plane tomorrow? I was like, whoop, yes, So that's something that I'll carry with me. And I always want to tell people, like, be ready for whatever is coming your way, because you never know. And it's never over until it's over.
Yep, I like that. Be ready. Okay, Claudia, one final piece of advice.
For me, it would be never give up, because it's easy to, like, the easy way out is to just say, okay, I'm done. But it's not the one that is the most rewarding in the end.
Never give up. Simple, but yet very impactful. Okay, Laurence.
My perspective on resilience is to always go forward. And what I mean by that is that no matter what happens, no matter what difficulties or how you're feeling, as long as you select at least one thing in your day that you consciously do forward, it's gonna help you. And sometimes it can be as little as getting out of your bed and making it, because you might have a bad day, and just making your bed is the start to your day. And it, with everything that happened to me in the last 2 years, that really was what helped. Just like, okay, what can I do right now to go forward? Is it going to be the way I do my practice? Is it just eating good, doing something positive, whatever it was? And I think it can apply to anyone, because as long as you decide you do something good for yourself, it's something you've done forward.
Yeah. Be kind to yourself. Great. Eleanor.
Something I think I really learned during the first year of the pandemic was the importance of, if you're going to be resilient, I find it very helpful to be surrounded by people that want the best for you, and that like you and are going to be there when you need them. And before the pandemic, I was so ready to stop fencing. I couldn't wait for the Olympics to happen so that I could quit. And then I started working with a new coach, and I realized that the coach that I had been with didn't treat me well, and that was really hard to be resilient when the person that's supposed to be teaching you doesn't believe in you, or at least doesn't act like they believe in you. So that was something that was really hard to accept. But when I accepted it and made a huge life change to put myself in a different situation, I find it much more easy to be confident and resilient. And when something happens, to have people that are there to ask and to force you to think about it instead of denying that something is wrong. So for me, that was a huge lesson in resilience.
Thank you, Eleanor. Jacqueline.
Yeah, so speaking to resilience, I would say to never lose sight of your goal. Sometimes it's difficult to be resilient when you lose sight of that end goal, and sometimes it may seem so far. And so something that helps me is breaking down that big goal into little steps, whether it be working up towards an exam or working up to the Olympic Games, and breaking it down into competitions and practice segments. Really never losing sight of that goal, which also reminds you of your purpose, your ikigai, of why you're doing this in the first place, which fuels you to stay resilient, to show up every day and to give your best self every single day.
Take small steps. Great. Well, thank you very much. That was an amazing panel and discussion. You gave some great, valuable advice to the audience. And, I was certainly inspired by it. And now it's time for the participants and audience to ask live questions. And I'll hand it over to Christine.
Thank you very much, Janelle. Very, very interesting discussions. And I'm not just seeing the Q&A box here, but I'm getting questions on my emails. I've got my handheld over here looking at them. But one point before we start on those audience questions, Claudia touched on it in terms of the funding issues. And I think the performance, particularly of the women, Canadian women Olympians this year, should nudge people in the right direction, including the governments, to start funding more to the women athletes. And I think that's a serious question that is being considered, because you guys performed so well this year, right? So I think we're going to see better. I'm absolutely confirmed that it's going to be better. It has to improve. So there's one question in the box that I think all of you I'd like to ask. It's from Melody Chang. What is something you took away from your homestay in Kyoto or wherever it was that you can still apply or you are able to apply in your work, whether it be from the culture you learned or from the people that you met? So I'm going to ask each of you that same question. So we're going to start with Jacqueline. She was last to speak, and she's going to start speaking. Over to you, Jacqueline.
All right. Thank you. And thank you for the question. There are so many things. I think one of the main things that I've taken from the homestay in Japan from my wonderful family in Kyoto was to really show gratitude and appreciation for the little things in life. Sometimes we get too busy and too caught up and don't really take a time to really appreciate the little things in life. And that's something that I truly learned from that homestay in Kyoto. I mean, they were appreciative for their family, for their wonderful place that they were staying in, their tea farm. And they just showed gratitude and appreciation every single day. And that's something that I've tried to transfer on in my everyday life.
Fantastic. Thank you. Laurence?
I would say passion. My host was a former calligraphy on kimono artist, and I got the chance to see it live. She made a piece for me, and I was able to bring it back as a souvenir. And I was just so impressed by the passion she put in her work that I got inspired. I was just like, okay, I need to do that now, just passion.
That's fantastic. Annie?
I want to say like the hand-on Japanese culture, like just being able to see them live and try to with Laurence, who was way better than me at trying to speak Japanese. but I would say just like being able to observe and actually like experience and soak into the culture. I want to say like the calmness, that's something I brought back, and just trying to like relax and calm down sometimes. I think like in Canada, or maybe it's just me, but I go way too fast. So that's something that I brought back.
Did you all practice Zazen when you were there? Did they take you to a Zen temple? There you go.
Yeah. It was my first time meditating, my first experience with meditation, and that's what I was saying. Like I still meditate almost every day. So that was a big plus for my life. Yeah.
Fantastic. Okay, Eleanor.
I was just really like moved by the warmth that my host family was able to show to just complete strangers. Like they were so welcoming and like excited to have us, and I felt so special. I was like, I want to be able to make people feel so like welcome and special, anyone. And so that was like really inspirational, and like I want to be able to treat people so nicely all the time.
Fantastic. Claudia.
Yeah, definitely most of my answers have been said, but Jackie and I did say together, and I had the exact same feeling, just showing gratitude to the people around you. We stayed in a house that had multi-generations, and it was just so incredible to kind of see how they take care of each other. And as Eleanor said, like they took care of us just as we were one of them. And I felt so privileged to be there and to be kind of able to connect without knowing the language, and kind of like flipping through a book to try and find some words every now and then. But, we communicated with each other even though we didn't speak the same language. So yeah, it was definitely incredible.
That's fantastic. Now I see another question here that I think we can ask all of you too. This is from Erica Biersnack. Do you feel that being an athlete adds a unique dimension to the cultural exchange? Now, I'm going to give you a little bit of background because I was around when we were going to send the sports group to Japan on Kakehashi, and it was a difficult slog, I have to tell you, because your coaches didn't want to let a lot of you go. They said they're in training, they can't be traveling. And so I had to pick up the phone and speak to a number of your coaches in order to let you go. But we'll start with Claudia this time on that question. Do you think that sports element, being an athlete, added a special dimension to that exchange or that trip that you made?
Yeah, definitely. I think to be able to see how athletes train in different environments, you know, we train in one very specific way here, especially as artistic swimmers, and to be able to see how the Japanese culture really takes sport and education and life and mixes it into this really, really beautiful package was just so amazing to see. And it kind of inspired us to try new things and not necessarily just focus solely on the training, but also focus on life after the training and be really prepared for what's next. Mm-hmm. So I found that to be really incredible, and just to be able to, as I said earlier, experience traveling and just take it all in and have, you know, the guides with us to be able to share the experiences. And we were also watching the Olympics at the same time while we were in Japan all together. So it was just a great kind of, you know, place to create a lot of memories. And it's still one of my favorite experiences.
Okay, thank you. Laurence, or any of you, we've watched on social media from the athletes, and I'm a Olympics fan, so I watched every day. I should have been working more, but I was watching Olympics on television. I heard that the Olympic Village experience was very positive. Can anybody talk about the food and the accommodations that you had there? So I'm going to go to Laurence on that question.
It was, I've talked a little bit about it. I said, like I said, it was one of the things that surprised me, but in a very positive way, because you never know what to expect. And we all had heard of the cardboard beds, and you never know what kind of food to expect, but everything was just so cozy and so welcoming. The food, there was choice for everyone, and no one had to eat like mystery meat or mystery food that you don't even know if it's actually like veggies or not. So that was a good thing. I also tried the what was it, the other diner, where it was like very traditional Japanese food. And for me, like as a younger like when I was a kid, I really was curious about Japanese culture, because here we hear about it, we see about it, but I was really excited to experience it. And going to the games, even if the games are more for like a international setup, I was able to experience that culture, and it was great. And just, yeah, I loved it. The food was great. Loved the food.
Absolutely. Thank you. How about Annie?
For the Olympic Village question?
Yeah.
I was only there for 36 hours. So I had 2 meals in Tokyo and then I left. But I feel like I experienced the same thing as everybody, just like the way from the airport to the village, so welcoming. And then Japanese counter, because I was like, I only have 2 meals, so I want to eat Japanese food while in Japan. And it was amazing. So I'm probably not the best person to ask that question.
How about Jackie? Jacqueline? Jacqueline, can you hear me? How?
I am. Hello. I'm sorry about my Wi-Fi connection.
Okay, that's all right. So how is the experience in the Olympic Village for you? The food and whatnot? Can you hear me? Maybe she can't hear. I'll go to Eleanor then until her audio comes back.
Yeah, it was so good. There, like, I'm vegan, and so
If I was able to decipher the question, all right, it was how was the stay in the Olympic Village?
Yes, that's right. Okay. Can you hear us now? I think her Wi-Fi is not working very well. Okay, go ahead, Ellen. Oh, Jacqueline?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, brilliant. So the stay in the Olympic Village was absolutely wonderful. The food was incredible. I have celiac disease, and so oftentimes when traveling, in particular to Asia, where celiac disease is a little bit not as common, I do have some issues finding food, but the village was very accommodating. As some of the athletes already spoke to, the variety of food that was available. I love trying traditional Japanese dishes, and the allergens were always clearly labeled, so I felt safe trying to explore new foods after competing. So it was definitely one of my favorite Olympic villages compared to Rio.
Fantastic, good stuff. Eleanor. Can you hear, Eleanor?
Yeah, sorry, I got it. Yeah, I had a similar experience because, like, I'm vegan, and so I was like not sure if I was going to be able to eat a lot of stuff. But there was vegan pizza made out of mochi rice dough or something, and I ate it every day. It was so good. Yeah, I had a lot of fun, like, kind of like running around in the village, and because there was kind of like a little pier that you could run along, and it was actually really cool too. There was kind of like a park that had an area you could kind of play. So that was fun, and yeah, just being there with my teammates was like really, really cool. Yeah, I had a great experience with the whole thing. Yeah, I wish we could have stayed longer, but COVID.
Claudia, I see. Did you get to travel a little bit outside of the village afterwards?
We did not. Unfortunately, we had to get right on a plane after, but we saw all of the amazing fans. They had signs every day when we came out on the buses, and they were waving at us, and it was just so nice to be able to see, you know, people enjoying the games, even though we couldn't really go and visit.
Well, that's fantastic. Well, we're coming close to the close. I want to ask Janelle a question here too. Janelle, about your organization, you're dedicated to supporting women in competitive sports, looking to transition or expand into business. And we have a couple of entrepreneurs amongst our Olympians here today. What are the challenges in particular that women athletes face in that area? And what are the best ways to push back against those challenges to help them enter the business world?
Yeah, I think, you know, the transition from sport to a second career is very tough for I mean, the athletes. And that's why they're seeking our help, is to kind of, you know, help them pivot. You know, I would say that what is really helpful is that, you know, identifying the skills that they've learned as an athlete that can translate over to business and entrepreneurship. So we're trying to do that through mentoring. So we've paired them, you know, with a female mentor, 2 or 3 levels above, who have had success in business. Second, the skill building workshops that we have to do obviously group online, and we align it to the World Economic Forum on how to boost women's economic empowerment in 3 ways: through financial, entrepreneurship, digital, and then board readiness. So those are the kind of the 3 themes that we try to help the athletes in their transition. But it's really for them, also just identifying the skills and what skills that can translate over to their next career, and helping them build that confidence to know that they can do what's next.
So can you tell them a little bit about the program that you have, and that our women entrepreneurs from our group here could apply to the EY program that you have?
Oh, yes, of course. Well, we just closed our application process, but we're happy to talk. We are going to be selecting our 2022 class for next year. The program starts January and goes through November, and it's manageable for both current and retired athletes.
We actually get selected. It's free.
Yes, it's free. It's free. It's pro bono, and we also have a really neat. We're looking forward to a leadership roundtable that we have for the athletes, and we have also peer-to-peer mentoring, and so we have a selection process, and we have athletes apply globally, and then we have 15 slots, and I don't know if the audience can speak, but Darcy Hortness is on the line right now, and she's our Canadian Olympian, silver medalist in rowing. So maybe she can share some experiences in the program, since she's currently in the program. But can the audience speak, Christine?
I don't see her on there right now.
Oh, she's on. I see her name.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Darcy, would you like to turn your camera on and talk for a moment amongst your colleagues here?
Hi. Oh, just one sec.
Oh, there she is.
Just in the middle of now a mom of 3 too, so it's balancing it all. Just one sec. I'll just get out of the.
Sorry to put you on the spot, Darcy.
No, that's okay. That's okay. Oh, it's so great to hear all of your stories from Tokyo, you guys. That was just so invigorating for me. Can you see me?
Yep.
Yeah, it just brings me back those memories, Laurence, that you talked about on the podium, everyone's, memories of the village. Like, everyone is so special and different. And yeah, thank you so much for sharing. Yeah, well, the WABN program, it just wrapped up for me. I was one of the participants for the 2021 class, and I became an entrepreneur this year. Actually, I started my own business as well, and just found it so valuable to have, well, my mentor, we met monthly, virtually. It's actually not a bad thing to have this program during a pandemic. Everyone kind of adapted to, well, we're all used to Zoom now. And yeah, so speaking with her monthly, the different sessions that we went through were all really like real-time applicable. I mean, I was retired. I've been retired since 2013, but still applicable. I think it was you, Claudia, who were talking about planning for your after sport career while you're still in it. It's really hard to do because you kind of want to be focused on the sport while you're in it. But to have that insight to plan for that time, because it's a tough transition. I'm just feeling like I'm just starting to come out of it, to be honest, and I'm almost 10 years out of sport. So it's not to scare any of those that are still in it, but just to have an awareness that it is a transition time, and why not use as many of the resources that you have available to you. Somebody talked about surrounding yourself with positive people or people that support you. Eleanor, I think that was you. It's so true, even in the after sport, the people that are going to be your support group and your cheerleaders, and also point you in the right direction. Like every event you go to as an athlete, talk to the people. And that's what the WABN program was as well. The peer-to-peer interactions, all the different EY mentors you have access to as well. And I've reached out to a few that way. And I'm even using one of the programs. Janelle, I don't know if you know this, the DISC profiles that we did back in the early days. I connected with the facilitator for that for my own company to get our leadership team, which is just me and a friend, but they're just all transferable skills. And I don't know, there's so much learning. And I found such value in it. So thank you to Janelle and the whole WABN team, because it's been really helpful to me in this year and beyond.
Darcy, where are you based?
I'm in Vancouver, BC.
Okay.
Yeah, currently raining.
All right. Yes, very rainy over there. I know. I hope you're okay and safe. We have another question that I'd like to ask before. I think this may be the last question that we'll have time for, but this is from Collison Ford. Do you have any advice for youth who live in very remote areas with little infrastructure who are looking to experience new sporting opportunities? Who would like to take on that question?
I'll try. So I think that before finding the sport, you have to try things. And I guess like a lot of us have done before, we didn't find our sport right away. We tried things. And if you're more remote, you just try what you can where you are. And you might find really good opportunities there. And if not, we've all had to like go other places to train, and it can be something that can be done. But I would advise first try what you have where you are before moving, because sometimes you think it's going to work and it doesn't, or you don't actually love what you moved for. So just find something you like first. And then, yeah.
Does somebody else want to add to that? Annie?
Can I add something? Yeah. This question kind of breaks my heart, to be honest, because like it's sad. I want to like maybe twist the question to us at it's not the youth that like has to do something about it. It's other people. So like for example, I work right now with Vans to give opportunities to like Indigenous kids and like LGBTQ kids and a lot of people who don't have access to skateboarding. And I think like that's something that us athletes and entrepreneurs should take over, and not the kids, if that makes sense.
Yep.
Opportunities like we've made facilitate other kids who don't have the same opportunities. So I just wanted to add that.
Good answer, Annie. And I'm going to go to Eleanor, because Eleanor tried a bunch of things too, because she just wanted to go to the Olympics, you mentioned, right? So do you have any words of advice there? You tried a few sports before you ended up in fencing, right?
Yeah. Well, I guess like something that also comes to mind is like during the pandemic, I think a lot of sports had to find a way to train remotely. So if you're in an area that maybe doesn't have fencing, you know, like, or other sports that are not super accessible, there are a lot more like online ways of trying things. Like I know like my boyfriend is a fencing coach, and he is still doing a lot of like Zoom classes and lessons with students from all over the world. So that would be another way to like, you know, if you happen to know the right connection, like that's not easy, but now you know us. So like reach out if you're interested in fencing.
That's fantastic. Jacqueline? Any words?
Likewise, to piggyback a little bit on what Eleanor spoke to during the pandemic, a lot of things did have to change. You know, we didn't have access to an Olympic-sized swimming school, yet we still had to train our sport, which does have limited access. I mean, you do need certain training facilities, but it is possible from any sort of remote area. And so definitely do reach out online, because there are possibilities, you know, online trainings or whatnot, to be able to get a taste of this sport, to see if it's your cup of tea or not. And this way you get to try many different sports, speaking a little bit to what Nahal said in the beginning, to trying different sports until you find out what your one sport is.
Claudia, one last word from you.
Well, everybody said such amazing things. But yeah, I have to agree, just taking the time to kind of branch out, and you know, maybe it's not the first idea to go online and find something, but it's definitely possible. And you know, as Eleanor said, you can reach out anytime to any of us and we'll be able to help out and kind of find the right connections to get you where you need to go. And you can ask us anything, honestly.
Well, I think we're going to have to close very shortly. So before we conclude tonight's session, I want to give a huge shout out again to our inspiring Olympians and our former Olympian, our double Olympic medalist, sprint canoer, Laurence, Vincent, Lapointe, our artistic swimming duet Olympians and Pan American champions, Claudia Holzner and Jacqueline Simoneau, our fencing star, Eleanor Harvey, and Anna Guglia, the only woman on Canada's skateboarding team. And Janelle, I have to say you are fantastic. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us this evening. We couldn't have asked for a better person to moderate this exciting panel. So let's show our appreciation to the panel and the moderator by giving a loud applause. Finally, our thanks to our colleagues at the Japan International Cooperation Center and to the Embassy of Japan in Ottawa for their continued support to the Asia Pacific Foundation of Canada, and to the audience tonight, the alumni, for their attentiveness throughout this webinar. Goseicho arigatou gozaimashita. Bonsoir et merci beaucoup. Good night and good day. Thank you, everybody.